Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, TigerTank12, however you call me, I don't really care, and welcome back to World of Tanks. Now, today we're going to be looking at some of the changes that are coming probably in the near future regarding the HP pool increase for tier 1 up to tier 6 vehicles. And I'm going to be talking about that. I'll give you guys a little bit of new information that I've just found on the website, what was it, the armored patrol, and I'll talk a little bit about the reasoning behind it and why I think it is a good thing. Now, first and foremost, before we get into a game with the Panzer IV Hydrostat, it's time to finally leave the black market behind us, although we're going to be playing a vehicle that I've just recently purchased off the black market for 6.5 million credits. You might think that is a huge number for a vehicle, and yes, that certainly is a very hefty price for a tier 5 tank. But if you look at it, they have only sold this vehicle in bundles, and you had to pay like 90 bucks to get it. Always a pretty bad bundle as well, so I'm kind of happy to finally pick this vehicle up since I'm a tank collector, and now I can play it. It's probably nothing too spectacular. It's basically a type, a Panzerkampfwagen 4 and Hydrostat. So as you look at the back, it looks a little bit different than the different type, Panzer IV vehicles that we have already in the game. More of a box shape, while this one here is more of a rounded vehicle. So that is not going to be our main priority today. We're not going to be comparing the Panzer IV vehicles to one another, but today we're going to be talking about the general issues that I do have with playing low tiers. Now I'm just going to pick up my crew and put them in there right now. Unfortunately, I've just put the wrong crew into the Panzer IV Hydrostat once more because I just picked the Schmalturm. So we're going to put them out again, and then we're going to switch the crew from the Hydrostat, no, the Schmalturm, to the Hydrostat, so we can play with a vehicle that has a decent crew. That is basically what will make the huge change or huge difference at lower tiers. So, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about why I don't like playing low tiers. Now, I've been playing this game for a couple of years now. I have a lot of experience regarding which tanks to play, what kind of maps, where I have to go, and basically this experience is raw power. When you're playing a game such as World of Tanks, where map knowledge, weak spot knowledge, and tank knowledge is basically the A to O in the skill set of every player, it makes lower tiers very, very easy. Now, lower tiers, at least in higher tiers, you always have a kind of expectation where people will be going. Lower tiers mix it up a bit. Obviously, lower tiers are really fun. The low tier vehicles are historical vehicles that actually fought during World War II, at least some of them. And it's always, I think it was one of the reasons why people played this game or started playing this game from the get-go, because there were vehicles such as the Panzer IV, such as the Tiger 131, such as the Cromwell Berlin in the game, because they're historical vehicles and they're really cool to drive. Yet, lower tier also means most of the time new players that don't have that much of experience. Since we don't have skill-based matchmaking in World of Tanks, that is a bit of an issue, because as soon as we go back and play those lower tier vehicles with very good crews that we have, with the knowledge that we have, with all the resources that we have up there, we're going to be able to dominate the lower tier parts. And I've seen a lot of players that I'm not going to name any names because I don't know them from the get-go immediately, but there are quite a couple of players that decide or that like to play lower tiers. Just to dish out damage and feel great about themselves because they're destroying those newbies. And there were a set of vehicles previously, such as the T-37, the Chaffee back in the days, and other vehicles such as the M44 and the M41 HMC, that really make life a living hell in the lower tiers. That's one of the reasons why I'm looking so forward to the HP buff. If you've played lower tier games, you'll notice that in direct comparison to tier 8, tier 9, and tier 10 games, or even tier 7 games, they tend to be over a lot quicker. That doesn't just have to do with the main fact that the vehicles aren't performing as well in, longer distance engagements as, the tier 8 counterparts do, because obviously they have older technologies and they're not going to be as accurate. They don't have some mechanics that other vehicles do have. But what ends up happening is that people who are not as experienced maybe play a bit more aggressive, don't know the outset and basic strategy where they should go, and that obviously can really change the gameplay experience quite quickly. So as you can see right here, we're playing as top tier on the map Paris, and we're playing against a couple of new players. You can see right here quite a lot of older, more experienced players around, but there are a couple of new players that have joined the game, and tier 5 is basically the medium stage, right? It's tier 5 halfway through, although the real grind will start at tier 6 and tier 7 all the way to tier 10. So what will happen? Wargaming are planning to increase the HP pools from tier 1 to tier 6, and what they're trying to do is they want to increase by some of the vehicles by twice the amount of HP they have right now. Now if you look at tier 1, since I'm playing on an A, and tier 1 on North America usually does take a while until you get into a game, since a lot of people stopped coming into the game as new players, and basically tier 1 only faces tier 1, I think, maybe some tier 2s, but usually it's only tier 1. So it takes a while, and you usually don't get like full lobbies. So yeah, tier 1 is going to get a huge increase by doubling the HP, which is only like 115 HP for the standard tier 1 vehicle, and they're going to double it. It's going to be 200 HP. But if you look at the different guns that you do have, it really shows you that HP is going to be making a difference. It's going to be making the games a little bit longer, and it's going to adjust it more to how World of Tanks is being played at higher tiers. And I think this is a good change, because they're going to be increasing tier 5 and tier 6 vehicles by a quotient of 1.31 and 1.12. That's for the tier 6 vehicles. And like tier 3, tier 2, and tier 4 up all the way to 1.53. So that means when you're driving those vehicles, you're going to be less easily killed by high explosive based vehicles. Those are obviously a huge problem for the game. They're a lot of fun, and I can totally understand it, but they are a big issue regarding balancing. I'm talking about the M4 Sherman with a high explosive based gun. I'm talking about all kinds of KV vehicles. I'm talking about artillery in general. And those things really need to be addressed, because if you look at it, that's a really cool tank. I love the Panzer III. Lower tier battles can be quite quickly decided by artillery pieces in quite a short amount of time. Why does that have to be? Well, the reason for that probably has to do with the fact that artillery can one-shot a vehicle, and they do at lower tier have a much higher rate of fire. But they still have a 105mm gun, where other vehicles at the same tier maybe only have a maximum of 75mm caliber guns. And the problem with those vehicles is that, historically speaking, most of the vehicles that you're looking at right there don't have the armor. right there, we are facing a Panzer V 4. Now, this vehicle, on the other hand, was also being sold on the black market, and the closest thing that gets to that vehicle is probably the Aufklärungspanther. That was the tier 6 German scout back in the days, or tier 5. It no longer exists, and I think most people were quite excited to see that vehicle back into action, if it will come out. Kind of pessimistic about that outcome, but I do think they're not going to be releasing it, because it was a very unique vehicle, but it didn't really fit into the meta for wargaming, at least. So yeah, we win this game, and this is a lower tier. We only got like 400 something damage, and this was almost also my first game in the hydrostat. A real neat little vehicle, nothing too spectacular, to be fair. I probably wouldn't have paid 90 euros to buy this vehicle, but still, I think it is a nice little addition. So, returning back to the HP pool. So, reasons for making this change are, from wargaming's perspective at least, to soften the transition from lower to higher tier vehicles while following a branch, which does make sense, right? If you are playing against vehicles that have more HP, and later stages the vehicles also have more HP, you'll get used to it a lot faster. Maybe you don't play as carefully as you would have played previously, and you maybe do more, play a bit more aggressively, and try to take certain positions. But obviously, we have to see how it's going to turn out. Increase the mean survival time in low to mid-tier battles, making them more comfortable for both newcomers and experienced players researching a new branch. That obviously is going to be the main aspect here, to just increase the game time. You know, get a little bit more play time, not just have this rushed 2-3 minute battle where everything is going on and basically it's over immediately. But they want to have a little bit longer battles, which also does transition very well onto later stages. And what they don't say right in here, but they are also going to be looking at this as, you know, giving a bit of a checking thing for high explosive based vehicles, you know, making them a little bit less powerful. I know we all enjoy our high explosive based vehicles, but it's really necessary. So that means all the vehicles from tier 1 to tier 6, I'm not sure how they're going to be doing that. Are they going to go from case to case basis? Is it going to be a general increase for all vehicles at tier 1 to tier 6? It seems to be a general increase for all vehicles, but that also increases the question. Well, since when they increase the HP for one specific tank, they have to increase the HP for the other specific tank at tier 6, right? If you increase the HP for the Panzer for Schmalturm, for example, you cannot not increase the KV2's HP, because otherwise it would just not be fair. It would kind of hurt the balancing act. But it would make you a little bit more, or give you a bit more of a survival time or survival chance against the KV2's high explosive shell. Yeah, we'll have to see how that change will affect the game, but I think it's going to be generally positive speaking, and I'm looking forward to it. And as soon as we have more information, I will give you guys some heads up, and I'll inform you about how they're going to implement it into the game. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.